Then, out of nowhere, the biggest bear you've ever seen, his hide littered with the weapons of fallen warriors, his face scarred with one dead eye. I drew my sword and...
Once wipe his sword shattered, then chomp! Dad's leg was clean off. Down the monster's throat it went.
Oh, that's my favourite part.
Mordu has never been seen since, and is roaming the wilds, waiting his chance of revenge.
Let him return. I'll finish what I guddled in the first place.
Merida, a princess does not place her weapons on the table.
Mom!
Good afternoon. We are here in Edinburg, Scotland. Leave it to Jamal. Normally you would see him on BlackTree doing all the interviews with the celebrities. So he sent instead his partly Scottish, very white friend Tara to do the job for him. Now that's what I call brave. Coming up, we're taking you out of the city and into the Highlands to talk to the cast of Disney Pixar's new film, Brave. All right, let me just quickly start out with Grey's Anatomy. How many of your castmates on that show have you tried to convince to come to Scotland?
Actually, Patrick and I spent quite a lot of time in Scotland when we did Maid of Honor 4 years ago, and he just fell in love with it. We actually shot a lot of it on the island of Skye, and he was like, I want to buy a place here. I love this country, you know, and I don't think many of the others have been. You know, they need to get out here. You know, they need to see how beautiful it is.
I have a feeling that once Brave comes out, you'll have a lot of people, castmates and otherwise, coming to Scotland. It is just beautiful. What part are you from?
I'm from a little town called Elgin, which is between Inverness and Aberdeen in the northeast of Scotland. It's a beautiful area and very, you know, very sort of quiet and simple. You know, we're in the city right now, but as soon as you get out, as you know, you've been visiting, you know, you suddenly, the country just opens up and it becomes this magical place, you know.
It's interesting to hear how difficult it is to animate that part of Scotland.
Yeah. I don't know how those guys do it. They do an amazing job.
All right, you play two characters, actually, which I honestly didn't know at first. So here you are playing somebody I can actually understand.
Right.
The Lord, and then his son. I have absolutely no idea what that guy's saying.
I know.
And that was based on a dialect from your part of the country.
That's right. Well, Pixar asked me, they said, look, we want you to play two characters, and we want the young character, the suitor, the guy with the big chin, to be, you know, very sweet and heartfelt, but completely incomprehensible to everyone other than his father. And they said, so can you just make something up? And I said, well, I could, but maybe one better is, you know, there's this dialect that my grandfather used to speak, and a lot of people still speak in the Northeast, called the Doric, which is almost like it's so far north that it's almost verging in a Norwegian kind of dialect. And a lot of people in Scotland can't even understand people from, you know, that area sometimes when they get going with this. So they said, well, do some for us. And I did it, and they were like, what did you just say? I was like, well, that's perfect, right? And they loved it. And they said, and I think they loved the fact that it is a real dialect as opposed to some made up thing. And I think it adds a little comedy to the proceedings. And I'm very proud that I managed to put my home dialect into a big Pixar movie.
All right, so answer this next question in your home dialect. Okay. What do you think of haggis?
Well, haggis is a half a fine meal, and I wouldn't mind hearing it every single day. You know what I mean? But you got to watch it because you can get a whore and a sore stomach with it.
Okay, I got about 1/8 of that. 1/8 of that. I love the fact that sometimes animators will watch video of you guys doing your thing and then maybe incorporate some of your gestures or your mannerisms. When you look at your characters, what of you do you see in them?
It's funny with young MacGuffin. You know, sometimes when my eyes go wide like that, you know, I'm like, oh, they did actually steal that from me. And also Lord MacGuffin, when I'm concentrating, I get this kind of furrowed brow, and I end up kind of not really. You can't really see my eyes. And I think Lord MacGuffin, you see his eyes once in the entire film when Robbie Coltrane's character lifts up his kilt. So you know, I kind of thought, oh, I think they've taken those two elements of me. You know, my surprised expression and my furrowed brow expression.
Now that you say that, I got to go back and watch it again. I think you're right about that. These guys have no issues getting into a brawl, getting into a fight, and some of the best scenes are when these guys just throw down.
That's right.
Does every kid in Scotland, every guy in Scotland grow up not shying away from a good brawl?
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, the old phrase about, you know, Scottish weddings, for instance, is that, you know it's been a good wedding if there's been at least one fight. You know?
Yeah. So that's true.
It's very true.
You've got kids. When they heard you were going to be in a Pixar film, what'd they think?
They were so excited. They were like, Daddy, you've got to do that. You've got to do that. And I've been a Pixar fan, so I was the one who'd already said yes. I was like, of course I'm going to do this. My kids were very excited to come up to Pixar in San Francisco, and they did the big tour. And then Catherine Serafian, who produces the film, took them into a room and said, okay, guys, Lord MacGuffin has to ride on a horse in one scene, and we haven't decided which horse he's going to ride. So here's 15 different horses designs, and you get to pick which horse they go on. So they're really excited to see the film, just so they can see the horse they picked out in the movie. So
The horse wasn't cut out of the scene, right?
No, luckily.
Yeah, that would be really bad. Well, you did a great job. I loved it.
Oh,
Loved
good.
it. Nice
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Yeah.